Welcome back, everybody, to the What's He On About Cricket podcast. I'm here on a very windy day at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, MCG. I keep calling it Melbourne, but it's definitely Melbourne. This episode of Cricket Chat is talking about the future of this England side. Captain, coach, MD, and all the players involved. I was there thinking that maybe there's a lot of pressure on these England players, but I don't think there's a huge amount of pressure on Spots, but we're going to talk about all of it today. Let's start with the captain. Now, there's a little bit of chatter about the captain being changed. I think that is possibly the worst decision that would be made from this England side. I think Ben Stokes is the man. If you're going to change it to anyone, it would be Harry Brook. And is this team going to play a huge amount different? I don't think so. But the main thing for me is these players are still backing Stokes. It's not like he's lost the change room. The coach is still in good connection with Stokesy, and I don't think that is a change that needs to be made. I really hope the wind isn't affecting this microphone right now, but we're gonna stay with it. Coach Brendon McCullum. I'm a huge fan of McCullum. I think the players are as well, and the way this side is going is still suiting Brendon McCullum's strategy. Now, the one thing I do think this England side needs is a winning mentality. Do I think Brendon McCullum brings nothing but win mentality? I don't think so. But that is what's telling me that I think this England team needs a spot of Australian, or maybe even a spot of Indian mentality, of on our dead body. We are going to win this game of cricket, whatever happens. I think this England side, it feels like it's lost a little bit of that winning mentality. And I think that maybe if we can't beat Australia, why don't we become them? Why don't we employ an Australian coach so that we have this winning mentality? You see what I'm thinking? I think Brendon McCullum's the right man for the near future. However, if you're looking forward to the Ashes in 2027, I'm really beginning to think, why don't we get an Australian man in? Why don't we get an Indian man in to be our coach, to lead the way and tell us how to win, how to be a number one test match side? I think Brendon McCullum can do that, but part of me as an England fan wants to see someone who knows how to win, someone who knows how to win Ashes cricket, someone who's maybe done it before to come in and do that for us. Let's move on to the managing director, Rob Key. I'm a huge fan of Rob Key, huge fan of him. But the one thing for me is that he's essentially come out the other day and apologised, saying it was his error that the England players were not prepared as they could be. They were not in the right position. They were not prepared well enough for this Ashes series. And it's almost like Rob Key apologised for that himself, that it was almost his fault. And I do worry about the future of Rob Key. As much as I like the guy, I think that maybe a change is needed up there, because he didn't get his job right, did he? And he said that he's come out and apologised for it, and about how the lack of England preparation is on them. And I think that probably means a change is coming, and what comes with these Ashes losses are a lot of changes. And I think that the coach is under slight threat, but I do not think that Stokes is under any pressure at all, unless he chooses to go himself. So that is the leadership structure sorted of this England side. Now moving on to the players. I think the team's in a pretty good position. Of course, I'd say that coming off the back of a win at the MCG at this place with it behind me. But we're going to go through each position. Who are the options if there is to be a little bit of a selection changeover? But at the top of the order, let's start with Crawley and Duckett. Now, I think Crawley's had a pretty good series. He was one of the few men on a 1-year contract heading into this series, with a lot of other batters on 2-year contracts. And I think that Crawley was under a lot of pressure going into this series, but he's been our top run scorer. I think he's third in the series with about 260 odd runs in the Ashes so far. And on pitches that have been tricky for batting, I think he's done pretty well. It would have been brilliant to have seen him get 100, but obviously that's not the case just yet. He could go to Sydney on a flat deck where it's going to spend all 5 days playing cricket, and he could do pretty well. But Duckett, on the other hand, there's pressure on him, isn't there? A lot of pressure after what's come out on social media, etc. That shouldn't affect the selection of him 100%. I think Stokes has dealt with the situation incredibly well as a leader, trying to reduce the pressure on his players. But as a cricketer, Duckett, he hasn't had the best series. He's batting at the hardest time to bat in Australia against some unbelievable bowlers. And I think he's averaged 16 with a 34 in the second innings at the MCG being his highest knock for the tournament. And we'd be lying if there wasn't a bit of pressure on this spot. But a lot of people are forgetting that he was essentially one of the world's best opening batters for the last few years. He's been averaging over 40 at the top of the order in a time where it is becoming increasingly trickier to bat. So yes, there are options like Tom Haines at Sussex and Ben McKinney, who've both been doing okay, made a few 50s apiece for the England Lions over here in Australia, and obviously playing very well back home. Haines has had a very successful few years for Sussex. As my camera almost gets blown over in the wind, I'm just keeping an eye on that. But I don't think there's a huge amount of pressure on the two openers, Crawley and Duckett. I think if you're looking forward to that Pakistan and New Zealand series this summer, I do not think Crawley and Duckett's positions are under huge threat just yet. Duckett hopefully will get some runs in the summer on some slightly flatter pitches over in England, but I don't think they're under much pressure. Now the number 3 position, poor Ollie Pope. I do worry for him that this could be the end of his stint in the England side. I think he's sat at about 27 years old. And he was, like Crawley, one of the few men on 1-year contracts in this England side. And it was almost as if it was a last hurrah for this Ashes series for Ollie Pope, to see if he could go out there and claim that position at number 3. You look back to England against Zimbabwe earlier in the summer, where Bethell would come off the back of a good series against New Zealand. A lot of talk about him coming in at number 3, but because he stayed out in the IPL, England continued with Ollie Pope. Ollie Pope then went on to make 100 against Zimbabwe and 100 in the first test against India, which solidified his place after a potential thought that maybe Bethell was going to start that English summer at number 3. But since then, he's been clinging on to his place, and poor Ollie Pope, as much as he is a brilliant player when he gets going for England, it does feel like it's going to be back to the county game for him for a bit. See if he can keep just smashing out some runs for Surrey, continuing his unbelievable record at the Oval. But I do think for the moment, especially for the coming summer, that Ollie Pope is probably going to be playing a lot of county cricket this summer, unfortunately, instead of England Test cricket. It does mean that Bethell's going to be the man at number 3. He had a good second innings at the MCG, and I do think that he will continue to perform at the Test level. He's yet to get a first-class 100, of course, but Jacob Bethell very much is the man moving forward. He oozes class, he oozes confidence, which is what you want at number 3. You don't want someone who comes out at number 3 and looks all scratchy. You want a man to come out there and look confident. And I think the main role for me at a number 3 role is that if you are going to come in after there's an early wicket or a wicket at any point from the opening pair, actually the role of the number 3 is to come in and make sure it doesn't go from 70 for 0 to 70 for 2 real quick. And I really hope Bethell can be that man for England. Other options, because 4 and 5 are so in place with Root and Brooke, other options at the number 3 role include Jordan Cox and James Rew as well, both sort of number 4 batters, but they can definitely both make it work. They've both had scintillating years in the county championship. Jordan Cox playing 8 games, averaging almost 60 with the bat, and James Rew scoring over 1,000 runs for Somerset last year. So I think that number 3 role is in Bethell's hands for the minute, but there's definitely a good, solid group of young lads knocking on that door to take that role, and those who have really made it work in first-class cricket, which Bethell obviously hasn't done so yet. But moving on to 4 and 5, Root and Brooke are so settled in that side, I'm not even going to spend more than that comment on those two. Stokes as well, he needs to keep the captaincy. I'm not going to talk about him much because he's been such a brilliant player, especially with the ball the last few years, averaging 23 I think this year with the ball. It's outrageous, tying his most wickets ever in a calendar year. But that's Ben Stokes, number 6. Let's move on to number 7. I think a big thing for me in Test cricket is having your best wicket at number 7, almost backing your top 6 to go and get the runs, and your number 7 is your best wicket keeper. Yes, there's been periods like Adam Gilchrist and the like who have batted number 7 and have been able to win games with the bat whilst being a pretty decent keeper. But I think as good as Jamie Smith is, I want Jamie Smith to stay in this side. That is for sure. But some part of me is desperate for a genuine wicketkeeper at number 7. I think a lot of England fans are calling for Ben Foakes to come back. He didn't have his best year with the bat last year in county championships, and he still averages 42 in the county championship last year. And I think it shows how good of a player he is, how underestimated he is. And the selection thinking behind Jamie Smith is that this guy can win you a test match on his own with the bat, whereas Ben Foakes doesn't really give you that ability. But what Ben Foakes provides is absolute wizardry with the wicket-keeping gloves. So Ben Foakes for me would be a great pick, but I think that Jamie Smith has done enough from this side to get dropped? Absolutely not. He's a world-class batter, and he will be. But I do worry about... I just want him to put a huge amount of effort into his wicket-keeping so he can be one of the world's best wicket-keepers. Because I know he can be. He's brilliant with the gloves. But Ben Foakes is obviously in a league of his own. Thomas Rue's also a man. He's 18. Potential future number 7. I think he'd probably want to bat higher, to be honest, but he's been getting 50s for the England Lions. He got a 50 against the England first team in that preparation game for the England Lions, Thomas Rue. He's captaining England under-19s in the World Cup this winter, and I do think that Thomas Rue moving forward could be a brilliant keeper batter. He's great with the gloves, and who's to say that he couldn't be knocking on the door of that Jamie Smith spot in a few years to come. But I do think it's slightly too early for him, as do I think it is for James Rue as well, who I do think will be knocking on that door as a Root replacement a few years down the line. Maybe we can see the Rue brothers tearing it up in the England Test side. Let's move on to the bowlers then. We're going to start with the 3 pacers, because I very much want this lineup to be 6 batters, your best 6 batters, 7 being your best wicket, and then your best bowlers. I want your 3 best pacers and your best spinner. So we're going to come on to the spinner at the end. So at the minute, our 11 for next summer is looking like Crawley, Duckett, Bethell, Root, Brooks, Stokes, Smith. A little bit of tension around number 7 and maybe number 3 in the opening spots, but those 7 are still pretty set in my mind. Now, let's talk about the pacers. Josh Tongue has had a terrific test match, and after a brilliant county championship last year, it's really making me think how crucial of a role he is going to play in this England test bowling lineup for years to come. And I do think Tongue's that man, and we can start looking at who's going to play alongside him. Gus Atkinson, although he's injured, is a good bowler. He is good. And I do think he's going to be crucial, vital, moving forward into this test summer, as he has done in recent years. He can bat at number 8. He's good enough with the bat. He's got a test 100. And alongside those two, is going to be Jofra Archer. Now the wind's coming from the side, and I think it's just smashing my mic to smithereens, but we're going to continue. Jofra Archer moving to 31 years of age. He is still our best bowler. I just worry that he'd spent so long out of this England side and returned for the Ashes, and I feel like I can see that happening again. A lot of time out of this side to then come back for the 2027 Ashes. And when I look at a bowling attack of Gus Atkinson, Josh Tongue and Bryden Carse, I don't see 2 new ball bowlers in there. I think Gus Atkinson is good enough to be a new ball bowler. I think Jofra Archer is a new ball bowler. But I still worry about Josh Tongue and Bryden Carse at their current time in their England career. I think Bryden Carse is a first change bowler. I do. And he's a workhorse. He's taken the most wickets for England in this Ashes series. And he's so good at grinding away and taking wickets when it matters. And that screams to me first change bowler. Whereas Josh Tongue doesn't quite feel like he's entering that new ball bowler just yet. Give it a couple of years and he will be. He still lacks a little bit of consistency for me to take on that new ball role. Gus Atkinson is very much able to be a new ball bowler, and Jofra Archer is as well. So therefore I think if Jofra Archer can make the side for this summer, it's a good balanced bowling lineup of Jofra, Gus and Tongue. I worry without Jofra that Gus, Carse and Tongue, you've only got 1 new ball bowler in there. So I think Jofra's key. And if we don't have Jofra, I then start to worry about the setup of this bowling side. You've got the like of Matt Potts, who again isn't quite a new ball bowler for England. Mark Wood is approaching 36 years of age and is bowling rockets with a growing injury list. And then you look elsewhere, who are our potential frontline seam bowling new ball bowlers? I don't think Ollie Robinson is going to come back into the side as much as I think he should. I don't think this Brendan McCullum side will be looking back to Ollie Robinson. Sam Cook again. Is he a new ball bowler? I think he is. He definitely is. Has been successful with it for Essex, especially with the Kookaburra ball. But I don't think this side are really big fans of Sam Cook and Ollie Robinson. I'd like to see him come back, but I think a big question over this England side is who's going to take the new ball come the summer if Jofra Archer isn't fit. So let's move on to the spinning debate. Bashir has had a tough ride, hasn't he? It's been funny how England have picked him to be this Aussie spin bowler in Australian conditions, but for some reason England haven't picked him. I don't know why they've picked Will Jacks over him, but I do feel for Bashir, and I worry that could be the end of his England career for the foreseeable. I really hope he can get a county gig and start working his way back up, but I do worry for Shahab Bashir. Now, who are the spin options? Liam Dawson's obviously a brilliant bowler and a brilliant batter. He'd slot so well at number 8 after Jamie Smith. The balance of this side would begin to look ridiculous. He's turning 36 this year. He's still performing brilliantly for Hampshire in the county championships, but I do want to focus my eyes on the nut, Jack Leach. I really, really do think very highly of this guy. He's turning 35 and he's going to be 36 come the Ashes in 2027. He's got Ashes experience, and take a listen to these stats from county championships last year. I know he plays at Taunton, which is a great place for spin bowling, but Jack Leach, 52 wickets at an average, I'll just repeat that in case the wind missed it, 52 wickets at an average, as the wind picks up, of 22 runs per wicket. It is absolutely ridiculous. And this guy came out at the start of the summer saying how he's desperate for another go at the England gig. I'm clinging onto my camera here. And I think Jack Leach is our man to take us forward. This summer he can bat at number 10 with Josh Tongue at number 11, maybe Jofra at number 9 and Atkinson at number 8. But I do think Jack Leach is the man to take England forward in the spin department, at least for the next 3 years, whilst we maybe look at a Farhan Ahmed or maybe even a Rian Ahmed to come and take the spinning duties. So there's my 11, I think, for next summer of Crawley, Duckett, Bethel, Root, Brook, Stokes. I really hope you can still hear me. I'm battling against the wind. Jamie Smith at number 7. Folkes and Thomas Rue maybe in the equation. And then number 8, Gus Atkinson. 9, Jofra if he's fit. You might have to go to a Sam Cook or a Bryden Cast if he's not. And then number 10, Jack Leach. And number 11, Josh Tongue. The main question being, who will be the new ball bowlers come 2026 and who will take the spinning duties as well. Make sure to click follow for more podcasts, more social media content, and make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Follow for more.